Okay, so now we want to discuss this thing here, which is the geological timescale. So how did this geological timescale come about? So the first thing that they did was that they found different rock layers, okay? And then they would find radioactive substances in the different rock layers. So once they found the radioactive substance in each of these different rock layers, they then could date it. And then they could say that, for example, this one was 1 million years old. And then they found that this one was 10 million years old based on its radioactivity. So they dated the different rock layers. Then they noticed they had fossils. So this rock layer here, it had a fish fossil in it. And then this rock layer up here, let's say that it had a clam. So that's my representation of a shell. All right, so that has a particular kind of shell in it. Then somewhere else in the world, they found rock layers that had the same fossils in them. So that over here, they found a particular rock layer that had a fish, and then they found another rock layer that had a fossilized shell in it. Well, then they could say that as long as these they're called index fossils, they're fossils that have appeared in geological time for only brief moments in geological time. So if that's true, then they could say that if this rock layer has this fossil, and then over here we know that this fossil was found in rock layers that are 10 million years old, now you can say that this rock layer over here is 10 million years old. And we do the same thing for this one here, and we could say that this rock layer somewhere else on Earth is 1 million years old. So that's how we established the geological time scale. Okay, so what would I want you to know for the exam? Okay, so I would want you to know the major parts to the geological time scale and what happened during those major geological times. Okay, so the first one, the first column on there is going to be referred to as an eon. So those are the broadest categories in the geological time scale. Okay, then next to that is the eras. Okay, and then next to that is the periods. Now we're not going to worry so much about the periods, okay, but I just want you to remember the broadest categories are the eons, next broadest is going to be the eras, and then the next broadest is going to be the periods. So that the eons that I want you to know about are going to be called the Phanerozoic, and then underneath that I want you to know the proto. Remember when we talked about protoplanets? They were the things that became a planet. So the Paleozoic means that it's a period of time that came before the Phanerozoic period of time. And then there's some other ones underneath that which I'm not going to be so concerned with. So let's say that this is the Proterozoic here, and then you got the Phanerozoic. Now the Phanerozoic is going to be divided up into 3 categories. So we're going to have the Cenozoic, and then under that's going to be the Mesozoic, and then underneath that is going to be the Paleozoic. So I'd like for you to know those 3 words. And then, now this isn't quite true, but we can call this the Pre Cambrian down here. Okay, so that's what I would want you to know. Now, why is this important? So the Paleozoic is going to be the age of the fish. So that during the Paleozoic, you have the first fish appearing in the oceans. And then also, during the Paleozoic, you're going to have the first plants and animals that are going to live on the continents. Now, let's do the Mesozoic. So, do you remember when we talked about the mesosphere was the middle part of the Earth? It was also the middle part of the atmosphere. So the Mesozoic is going to be the middle part of the Phanerozoic. And this is going to be the age of the reptiles. So this is when you're going to have your dinosaurs. Okay, then you got the Cenozoic, which is the modern, and so this is going to be the age of the mammals during this period of time. Okay, and then the Precambrian, let's just call this the age of the bacteria. So it was during this time period that life is going to begin, and all throughout this time period, life was pretty much invisible until you get to this point right here, which is going to be called the Cambrian Explosion. And then, so once you go from the Proterozoic to the Phanerozoic, then all of a sudden organisms become visible when you're in this region here. So that's basically what I would like for you to know. I would also want you to know the age of the Earth, which is 4.6 billion years old. Make sure and know that number. Okay, so I think that if you know that, that would be a good representation of the geological time scale. So that concludes this review of this lesson. So in our next review, we're going to go in depth through the history of Earth, the biological and geological history of the Earth. So I'll see you then.